Hi, everyone, and welcome to my live. I am Coach Sherry, and this is Real Talk with Coach Sherry. This is my podcast here on YouTube, and I am also live. So I would love for you to drop down in the chat as we touch and embark on this subject. Embrace feedback, your guide to continuous improvement. And this is part of my series, my A through Z series about personal and professional growth. Now, I started that series a few months ago and I did an overview of all of the letters, but I did say I was going to touch on each of them more in detail. And I was like, wow, I haven't visited that in a long time. And I only got up to the letter F, which is feedback. So today we're going to discuss how to embrace feedback, and it's going to be your guide to continuous improvement. So I hope you have your pen and paper ready because there's going to be some great information shared this evening that I believe is going to help you improve. Listen, this summer, this year has gone by so fast, and we are already over a little over half of 2024 is gone, and we are in a new fiscal year. If you are running a business or work for an organization that deals with the fiscal year, which is July 1st through June 30th, then you are starting something new. And a lot of new projects, ideas, things are being innovative, creative, all that is going on. And it's an opportunity to implement great things, but you, in many cases, will require feedback. And how you handle feedback, how you give feedback is so important. So, if you are the giver or the receiver, this video, this live, this topic is definitely going to be for you. So I want to welcome you all in. And thanks to those who are watching the replay. I really appreciate you for also dropping down into the comments to let me know that you're watching the replay. All the thousands of people that come back, this is evergreen content, so it will be relevant for years to come. I am Coach Sherry. This channel is about workforce development, career readiness, entrepreneurship, real life, real issues, and real talk. And if you are into improving yourself in any area of your life, you definitely will find value in much of my content. So I appreciate you again. So let's get started. Let's get right in. Let's jump in. So, the first thing when we go into embracing feedback is, you want to grow personally and professionally through feedback. So, I want you to consider these things. Again, I hope you have your pen and paper ready so that you can capture these notes. And if you know someone else in your circle that is having a challenge with giving or receiving feedback, you may want to share this video with them, or at least, have this conversation with your circle about how they're dealing with feedback on their job or in their business. Feedback is given on a daily basis, whether you know it or not. And as I am sharing this information with you, I am sharing it with myself. I'm preaching to the choir. I can always improve. And so that's why I love doing deep dives like this, because it refreshes me. It helps me to continue to evolve. All right. So when we look at feedback, you want to change your perception of feedback. View feedback as an opportunity to learn and improve, not as criticism. Don't take defense. Engage with curiosity and confidence, not defensiveness. Assume positive intent. Don't think that because someone's giving you feedback that they are meaning you harm or they don't want you to be your best. So definitely assume that it's all in love, that is positive, and recognize that feedback is often meant to help you, not criticize you personally. This shift can reduce defensiveness and foster openness. So it's all about, shifting your thoughts on, okay, they may not agree, or what I did may not be acceptable, but it's not me that they're putting feedback on. They're not criticizing me personally. It may be that one piece of the project. It may not even be the whole project. All right. You want to practice active listening. So that means you don't want to shut down right away. You really want to actively listen to the feedback that is given. Engage with curiosity when receiving feedback. Ask clarifying questions to understand the feedback better and reflect on its value. You also want to use feed forward techniques, and that's when you request feedback on positive changes you want to make. Encourage others to notice your progress rather than focusing solely on past behaviors. That's the one thing that is hard for an owner of a business, a manager, a supervisor, to look forward and not to dwell on a person on their team or an employee's past behaviors, especially if those past behaviors weren't one and done. They were basically part of who they show up to be, what their habits are. And people can always change. New beginnings are always possible every day. You can rebrand yourself. So, the person that's giving that feedback has to give you grace in that area and recognize that you are making improvements, and to see that and notice those things and ask them, let them know that you recognize that you needed some changes, that you needed to improve, and ask them, have they noticed those improvements and what are their thoughts, and how can you continue to improve in those areas. Express gratitude. Start feedback conversations by thanking the giver, which can create a more positive atmosphere for discussion. I know whenever I do a project or work with a client, especially if I'm producing a product, I always ask for feedback and I let them know, listen, this is going to only make me better. This is only going to make my service, my product better. I know last week I had about, oh, y'all, I had around 8 presentations to make. And out of the 8, I want to say I received two pieces of feedback that in other arenas, or if other types of people may have received it, they would have looked at it as a negative, but I looked at it as a positive, and I thanked them because I need to know those things that I can improve. Sometimes a person may see something that you completely miss, even if you have a whole team with you. Sometimes the whole team will miss that point, and that's something that I can use in the future to make what I do even better. So I graciously thank them for that type of feedback. All right. So then you also want to, again, express gratitude. Start feedback conversations by thanking the giver, which can, again, create a more positive atmosphere for discussion. All right. So that's the first thing. The next, number two, and if you are numbering these things in your notebook, because I know you have your pen and paper ready, the first one was number one, and this is number two, and that's cultivate a growth mindset. And we hear a lot about growth mindset and the importance of it. And you still may not quite know, well, Coach Sherry, how do I get a growth mindset? I hear about it all the time, but I'm not quite sure how to develop that. So you want to embrace feedback as a tool for continuous learning and self improvement. And that's part of growth mindset. I know it's still not giving you, like, well, how do you do it? So this is the how. You want to frame the feedback as a chance to develop abilities through dedication and hard work. Acknowledge that skills can be improved over time with effort. So, when you learn a new skill, you have to still develop it. It has to become part of you. It doesn't happen overnight, it's not one and done. So, sometimes you may have to learn that skill more than once, see it more than once, try it more than once, and it happens over time, and it absolutely is going to take effort on your part. And embed regular feedback into your daily routines. This normalizes feedback and reduces fear associated with annual reviews. So many people are so fearful of being reviewed for their work, even if it's on a monthly, weekly, bi weekly, yearly basis. They get so fearful, like, what are they going to say about what I do or what I've done? Um, the thing is that you need to embrace it on a regular basis. So look forward to having those feedback conversations. If you know that you've completed a project, if you've done an assignment, you should look forward to that feedback. If it's not given, you should request it. After a big thing, a big project or an event, I always like to debrief. And in those debriefs, I am looking for that feedback. What did we do well? What can we do to improve for next time? And that's another reason why at the beginning of the 2024, the book that my team was reading is Think Again, because I didn't want them to look at things that we do as great. Yeah, it may have successfully been completed. Everyone may have left happy and excited, but there are still things that can be improved. And that's the feedback that will keep your team relevant and growing and allow them to evolve in a more positive direction. So, in all that you do, look for feedback. Don't run from it. Don't shy away from it. If something didn't work out, if it was a flop, if you were just so disappointed because maybe the turnout wasn't great, look for that feedback. I know there's a lot of content creators out here that provide feedback to channels around your thumbnail, your content, your engagement. And, some content creators, they shy away from that. They don't want to hear what they're not doing right. Maybe they feel in their heart of hearts that they know what they're not doing right and they don't need to hear it from that third party. But feedback in all arenas is really good. The greatest athletes still request feedback. I know my husband played in the pros for 10 years and he always was looking for ways to improve his stance. He was getting feedback after games, watching film, giving himself feedback, critiquing himself, even, of what he could do better, what he should work on, what he should strengthen. And that's what we all have to do, no matter if your career is requiring you to be physical, mental, or emotional. We need to improve. All right. The next is aim for a 5-to-1 ratio of positive to critical feedback to create high performing teams. This balance encourages continuous improvement while maintaining motivation. And as a leader, you want to model vulnerability by being honest about your own challenges and learning experiences. This creates an environment where others feel safe to grow. Sometimes people who are in upper level management, C suite, people that are the business owners, they act like they've always arrived, like they've never been at any other level but where they're at. And when you can be vulnerable to your team and show them, like, listen, I am not that strong over here. That's why I have you. Or, I flubbed on that. I really should have maybe practiced a little bit more before presenting that, or I've done a little bit more research. They see, wow, this person is real too, and they have the same challenges because we are all the same. We're all in this together. Just some people are at different levels, but that doesn't make them better than you. And so, being a leader, it's important to show that vulnerable side. I always show my vulnerable side. I think sometimes too much, but I always, I want to keep it real. I want to let them know, like, maybe that didn't feel good, or even if I don't respond at that moment, I'll go back and I'll think and I'll come back and say, you know what? That message that we received the other day, this is how it made me feel. And this is how I think we should improve so that that's not a message that's going to be ongoing. So definitely, be authentic, be transparent. I'll say that in meetings sometimes, I'll stop it and pause and say, listen, I need to be transparent right now. And this is what's going on. This is how it's making me feel. This is how I'm seeing it. This is my experience with that. And I feel like that when you start off and are that type, you are more appreciated. People see you as part of the solution and not part of the problem. All right. You also want to encourage a feedback culture where team members provide input to each other across all levels of the organization. This promotes mutual growth and support. And once again, speaking about leadership, sometimes leaders think because they are the leader that no one can critique them. But not saying that you have to throw darts at each other, on in the boardroom or in the workplace or in the business, but definitely be able to have that open dialogue. I know some organizations, they do provide that 360 um, report. What is it called? The 360 review, 360. I can't recall what it is, but you know what I mean. It's when evaluation, a 360 evaluation. And sometimes leaders will request that too, because the best ones, they want to get better. So they're like, you know what, team, evaluate me. You don't have to put your name on it. Now it's harder when you have a small team, but when you have a large organization, requesting that type of evaluation can be very helpful. It can be hurtful, but sometimes you have to go through that hurt to get to the sweet spot. All right. Focus on specific behaviors and actions rather than personal traits when giving or receiving feedback. This makes improvement more actionable. Reframe setbacks as learning opportunities. Instead of viewing failures negatively, see them as chances to gain valuable insight and grow. Even if it hurts, when you hear it, it may hurt real bad. But you also need to know that's a teachable moment. I know someone, it's been a couple of weeks now, not just a couple of weeks ago, but it's been a few weeks that he has been going through this situation and has been confiding in me about it, and is really, doing something to him personally and professionally. And I asked him, what are you learning from this? Because even though he's going through the midst of the storm, he's in the center, the eye of it, you still have to pause and say, what am I learning from this? How am I learning how to deal with people? How am I learning how I'm showing up? Maybe I need to also take account for what's going on. It's not just them trying to keep me down or take anything from me. Why are they doing that? And if this is a recurring thing, then it definitely has something to do with you. If everywhere you go, the same treatment ends up happening, then it's not always the other person. And that could be in your personal relationship too. If you are in a relationship and, a personal relationship where eventually, shortly after the commitment, the person starts to step out on you, or they start treating you ill and calling you out your name, or the communication falls out, you're just not communicating effectively. And if that happens in every relationship, at some point you have to stop and say, it's not them, it's me. And if it's you, now what are you going to do? What kind of help are you going to seek? So you can't always, blame other people. You have to switch your mindset to expect new results. So that means each relationship you're entering in, each situation that you're going in, if you're going in with that same mindset, then eventually you're going to have those same results. So that's why it's so important to be accountable. All right, number 3, you want to be specific and objective. So you want to focus on specific behaviors and actions rather than generalizations or personal traits. So avoid general statements. Instead of vague comments, provide precise examples. For instance, rather than saying, improve your presentation skills, say, your slides in yesterday's meeting lacked clarity. Make it hard for the audience to understand your key points. So, you want to be more clear with the content that's on your slide. So that's not just saying your presentation as a whole. And that's dealing with SL2. If you understand situational leadership, that's when you don't take a person's task, maybe that they had some some challenges with. You don't take that and say that they are a bad employee because of that task. No, you take it, you're very specific with your feedback according to the particular task that they may have had a hiccup on. And that's what you focus on, and that's where you help them improve, not with them as an employee or as a business partner or as a personal partner as a whole. You want to focus on behaviors and address specific actions or behaviors rather than personal traits. This helps separate the individual from the action and fosters a constructive environment. You know, maybe they're not doing it the way you want them to do, and they're doing it in a lackluster way, but that doesn't mean that they are a lazy person altogether. Just in that particular moment for that task, they may be slow moving and it appears that they're lazy, but they're really being cautious, and their cautiousness may appear to be lazy, but they're cautious because they don't quite know what to do. So maybe you need to reteach them. So that's where you go into the coaching mode, and you're figuring out what it is that they need. Is it another resource? Maybe they need to relearn something. Maybe they need another tool. Maybe the tool they have is not sharp enough. Whatever it is, but don't just look at them as a whole and say that's a lazy individual. No, don't don't rate them on that one task as a whole. Use metrics and data, base feedback on measurable data or objective criteria to make it reliable and less prone to personal biases. For example, last quarter, your sales figures were 10% below the team average. That's not just saying you were not as good as the rest of the team, or you're not doing good with your sales. You're actually giving straight data. Numbers don't lie. So when you give it like that, then they're able to see it as well. And they're like, oh, wait, I have some catching up to do. Emphasize growth and development. Frame feedback as an opportunity for growth, highlighting potential for professional development. This encourages a positive reception and commitment to improvement. All right. And now we're at number 4, which is use the feedback sandwich technique. And if you're listening to this in the replay, let me know, are you familiar with the feedback sandwich technique? You probably are, but you may not know it as the sandwich technique. So you really, in this way, you want to start with positive feedback, provide constructive criticism, and end with another positive note to soften the impact. And that is the feedback sandwich technique. So, again, the feedback sandwich technique is a method for delivering constructive criticism by placing it between two layers of positive feedback. The structure typically involves positive feedback. Start with a compliment or acknowledgement of what the individual did well. Then in the meat of the sandwich, you want to do the constructive criticism by providing specific areas for improvement or corrective feedback. And then you want to put that top of that piece of bread on there, and that's that positive reinforcement. And you want to conclude with another positive remark, reinforcing the individual's strengths and the potential benefits of making the suggested changes. Listen, this method right here is so powerful, and it is an opportunity for that individual to truly grow because of the way that you are delivering that feedback. Now, I told you what it is. I hope you wrote it down, but it's something that you would have to practice. It's not going to just happen overnight. Just like all of these strategies, it's something you have to consciously say, this is how I'm going to do this feedback. You may want to jot down notes before you give it, just so that you can stay on task and on track. But it is possible for this to become part of how you deliver feedback to your team, to your peers, to your employees. The next is you want to encourage self reflection. So, encouraging self reflection, all right, listen, after receiving feedback, reflect on your actions and consider how you can improve. And that's what I was talking about, the accountability piece. Ask open ended questions, encourage deeper thinking by posing questions like, what did you learn from this experience? Or how do you feel about the feedback? And what are your next steps? This prompts the recipient to process the feedback and identify their own strengths and areas for improvement. You know how you have those friends in your circle that always are coming back with a woe is me story about what the man is doing to them, or who has their foot on their neck, or who's holding them back. And you listen, but at some point you need to turn that mirror around so that they can reflect. And that's why those questions of how do you feel about the feedback that you are receiving, or what did you learn from that experience, what do you think you can do different. Start asking them those questions. Don't just be that yes man in their corner listening to them and just letting them go around and around in that circle, because they're going to keep you in that circle with them and make you dizzy. So, to keep yourself from being dizzy, step out that circle real quick and just ask them a couple of reflective questions. Have them think, because it is not always the other person. Use the GROW model. And this coaching framework is goal, reality, options, will. It helps recipients set and achieve goals based on their current situation, possible alternatives, and commitment. You want to set aside dedicated time, allocate specific periods for reflection to ensure it becomes a regular practice. Focus on specific areas. Concentrate on particular aspects of your performance or experience to make the reflection more manageable and actionable. It could be how you showed up. It could be the things that you did, and you know that you didn't prepare properly. You know that you didn't have the proper tools or resources, or maybe didn't delegate and didn't have enough support. You know that, you know, um, the people around you weren't really a team player, or you weren't a team player. What was your performance? What was your experience? So you want to reflect on that. Reflect on both positive and negative experiences. Consider successes as well as challenges to gain a balanced perspective. Use video recordings if applicable. Record your performance or interactions to review later, providing a more objective view of your actions and behaviors. And let me tell you, recording on YouTube has definitely helped with my reflection on, how I speak, how I look on camera. Back in the day before being a content creator, I did not like the sound of my voice at all on video. And now I've come to accept it. This is the way I do sound. But I'm conscious of, my diction. I want to make sure that no matter where you are in the world, that when you hear me, that you understand me, that I'm speaking as clearly as I possibly can in lieu of my accent, my northern New Jersey accent. But definitely it helps, and that's my reflection. So using video recordings is very helpful. If you are trying to do presentations, be on panels, be a facilitator, whatever it may be, this right here channel, this YouTube, is a great practice ground. I always say practice really hard, practice every single day, because you will definitely play how you practice, and it will show up when you least expect it. I remember I was a presenter at a conference last year. It was last year, and it was in Raleigh, North Carolina. And it was a wonderful, wonderful conference. And it was a group of us, actually. So initially, what we had to do was we each had 2 minutes to say a piece. We each got a topic that we had to talk on, and we had 2 minutes to talk about our topic. And believe it or not, 2 minutes is quite a bit of time. And we were recorded. They had to modify the way that it was going to all be laid out. Initially, we had 5 minutes, then it dwindled down to 2 minutes each. And they had a whole recording studio set up. We each had, what we were going to say. Some had it written, some memorized, or whatever. And I just remember, I can't remember what number I was, but I was probably number maybe five, 4 or 5. And it was about 8 of us. And I just remember the people before me had to retake their recordings over and over because, they stumbled up, even if they were reading it right from the page, they just were not comfortable. And everyone was so nervous, like, oh my goodness, I'm so nervous to record my voice. I don't like the way my voice sounds, or I don't know, it's going to be so weird. And I was the only one that was kind of cool and collected about it, and no one could understand why. They were like, Sherry, you just chilling over there, you're calm. And I said, yeah, I'm a content creator. I do this all the time on YouTube. So this is, I'm not nervous about it at all. I'm just going to deliver the things that I wrote out. And I did mine's one and done. And I was the only one out of the 8 that recorded it on the first take. And even the people that were, the audio people that were there, the operators, were surprised. It was like, oh shoot, everybody else was like, take 5, take 10, and you come in and it's one and done. And I was like, yeah, I mean, it wasn't like a brag, it was a fact that I'm comfortable because I've been practicing all along on my YouTube channel. And that's what this is. So if you are someone that is on the fence about creating content, however, you want to have a podcast, you want to be invited to other podcasts to be interviewed, or you want to facilitate meetings, you want to be a presenter at conferences, you want to be part of a panel at workshops or seminars, then yeah, you may have great content to share. Your voice may be very needed in that room. But the best practice, because even with that, just putting your presentation together, just understanding the key notes that you're going to touch upon, you still need to practice. And what better place than YouTube? All right. So, also follow a structured reflection model. Consider using a simple 3-stage model, which is descriptive, that's describe the feedback in your own words, critical thinking, analyze the who, what, where, when, how, and why, and future focus, determine areas for change or improvement. Create a calm environment. Find a quiet space or engage in an activity that allows your mind to be calm while reflecting on the feedback. So don't try to reflect on what you just heard, what someone just told you, the feedback you just received if you are in a chaotic area. If you are driving home in rush hour traffic and you are just frustrated with the traffic. If you have a busy office, if when you step out of that office where you just had received that feedback, but you step out, there's customers or clients all around, don't try to reflect then. Wait until you are in a calm and collected and quiet space. All right. Number 6, seek and offer support. Provide or ask for resources such as training or coaching to help address areas of improvement. Choose the right people. Seek feedback from those who genuinely want you to succeed and can provide honest, constructive input. Look for optimistic and encouraging individuals who share your vision and values. You don't want someone that's telling you, girl, you can't do that. I don't blame them for telling you that, or that you think you really want to do that. I don't know anyone who's done that before, and I doubt if you'll be one of them. You want to have someone that's going to be encouraging, uplifting, supportive. I know that there's been many situations where people would tell me, "Oh, they never hire a black woman to do that. Like you probably won't get that contract." What? And then when I get it, it's crickets. They don't say congratulations or anything. It's just quiet. So be mindful of who you are seeking support from. You want to be specific. When asking for feedback, focus on particular aspects of your performance or specific projects rather than general comments. This helps you get more actionable insights. When you're vague with it by saying, what else do you think I can do? Or where do you see me improving? What? That's too vague. You need to be more specific. Like, I know that I need to focus on this area. What do you think I need to do in order to improve in that area? What do you think I need to be able to really master or be the lead for that particular part of what we do. So be very specific. It's almost like saying, can I help you with something? When you're in the midst of a project and someone just says, oh, is there anything I can help you with? And you just throw anything at them, like, here, take the garbage out, basically. But if they are specific and they know what they can do to help because they see what needs to be done, they know their strengths, and they go in like, oh, I see that there's a lot of phones ringing. I'm going to go and answer this phone and take down notes. Is there anything you need me to say to the caller? Be specific with all things. And this way, you always end up doing something that you love. There's always not always, but sometimes when people offer their service and they get the garbage to take out, and I'm just using that as a figurative thing, but they get the garbage to take out and they hate taking out garbage. And then they're disgruntled. Even though they're volunteering their time, they ask, what can I help you with? And this is what you can help me with. And you get what you get. But when you are specific and you are like, listen, this is what I know I can do. This is what I know I love. I would enjoy doing this for you. Can I do it? Then you end up enjoying it and your experience is completely different. So be specific. All right. Let's see. Also, listen actively. When receiving feedback, focus on understanding the other person's perspective without becoming defensive, clarifying points if needed. Show appreciation, express gratitude to those who provide the feedback. This encourages them to continue offering support in the future. Analyze and reflect. Take time to process the feedback received, considering how it can be broken down into actionable steps. So don't just take it as words when you get that feedback. Take it as an action step. What can you do? What's the first step to improve? Set SMART goals based on the feedback. Create specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound goals to implement changes. You also want to offer balanced feedback when giving feedback to others. Provide both positive and constructive comments to help the receiver appreciate their strengths while acknowledging areas for improvement. All right. So, number 7 is you want to establish clear goals. Set specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound SMART goals for improvement. Using the SMART framework, ensure that goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. This makes goals clear and actionable. Incorporate clear feedback. Provide feedback that is contextual. Listen actively. Empower the recipient. Align feedback with goals and review progress regularly. This ensures feedback is constructive and goal oriented. Set realistic goals. Differentiate between stretch goals and unrealistic ones. Adjust goals based on feedback and changing circumstances to maintain relevance and achievability. Regular review and adjustment. Continuously, you must review your goals and feedback to track progress, identify challenges, and make necessary adjustments. And that's why the 12-week year is so powerful, because you do have those check-ins on a weekly basis, sometimes a daily basis, but on a weekly basis where you can review your progress, make adjustments when needed. You may need to tweak something, you may need to realign it with something else. You may determine that this is not the time that you can achieve that particular goal because it is not the season for it and the resources aren't available. So then you have to, pivot a little bit. But it's so important to review them and to keep track. Some people just have their goals, they put them up, they think that they're amazing, and they don't keep track of their progress within it. Number 8 is you want to foster a culture of open communication. And that's to encourage an environment where feedback is regularly given and received, promoting continuous improvement and collaboration. Lead by example, demonstrate openness to feedback yourself, encouraging your team to do the same. Show vulnerability by admitting mistakes and asking for input. Create psychological safety. Establish an environment where employees feel safe to express their thoughts without fear of negative consequences. Encourage diverse viewpoints and validate all contributions. Encourage active listening. And this is also even for your family. You know, if you are a parent, you have young children, you're developing them, you want to instill these types of communication into them, into your relationships, personally and professionally. It is so powerful. I see Tuber Chat and Connect and Grow is in the building. Hello to you. Thank you for sharing this on Reddit as well. I appreciate your support. I truly do. I truly do. Regular feedback channels. Implement regular feedback sessions, such as one on ones or team meetings where open dialogue is encouraged. I highly recommend if you have a team, even if it's a team of one, have one on one meetings scheduled, not just fly by night, not just at the water cooler, but scheduled one on one sessions to see, to get that report, to get that feedback on how they're doing with their goals, with their projects, and what resources you can provide and support you can provide. And if they are struggling in a way, they may need coaching up. They may need to be encouraged to keep going, to be inspired, to be transformed. They may need to have a different type of development, maybe a course. If you are having them take care of a chart, of a spreadsheet, maybe they need to take an Excel pivot table class. You know, identify what needs they have so that they can be the best at what they do. Acknowledge and act on feedback. Recognize contributions and demonstrate how feedback has influenced decisions, reinforcing its value. Utilize various communication tools. Leverage different platforms for feedback, especially in remote settings, to ensure everyone has a voice. And let me tell you, when I am conducting meetings virtually via Teams or Zoom, and at some point in those meetings, I always make sure everyone has a voice. I may pose a question. I may ask for, a pulse check to see how people are feeling about what they just heard. I may ask for their one takeaway from the meeting. I always make sure the voices are heard. Promote continuous improvement. Foster a culture that views feedback as an opportunity for growth rather than criticism, emphasizing development and learning. That is so important. And again, this is information that crosses over not just in your professional life, but also your personal life. In your relationships with your loved ones, you should be able to have that dialogue, that exchange of different types of feedback, especially the positive ones. Some people may say, well, they know they were supposed to do that. That's what was expected. Well, give them that feedback. Thank you is a good one too. So it has been my pleasure this evening sharing this information with you. And I hope that you were able to get a nugget or two from it, because I definitely know I did. And even though I was presenting this to you, it still was me speaking to myself, because we all can improve. And even if you know better, sometimes some areas you may let slip a little bit, and you have to just kind of, sharpen it and kind of brush it off and blow on it and wipe it down and make sure that it's still good. And that's what I'm doing here every day. That's what it's all about. We have one shot. Today will never happen again. So make every day, every moment count. Remember, practice so hard that when you play, you will always play to win. It has been my pleasure sharing this information with you tonight. I am Coach Sherry.